video, I'm going to show you a new feature within Power Apps Power Automate to create a function. Okay, so I'm in make.powerautomate.com. So as you see over here, I'm in one of the solution, and solution has like one component, Cloudflow. What I'm going to do, I'm going to click on new, and then under automation you should see something called as function. So what is a function? So function is basically, it allows you to create a reusable component. So I'll click on function over here, and now here it will ask me what should be the name of the function. So I'm going to say the name of the function is to calculate the force. Okay, so I'll just say calculate force, and you can create any function. So I'll just keep it very simple. The input parameters is it's, say, I will say mass, and the mass is, say, decimal value, and the new input parameter is, or like make it simple, like let's keep it integer. Okay, mass is integer, and the new input parameter is acceleration, and that's also an integer. So force equal to mass into acceleration. So I've got two input parameter and I have one output result. So the output result, I'm going to call it as force, and this will be again an output in an integer fashion. Now we can use table references, but this example I'm not going to show that. But just to show you the syntax, how the formula will look like is, we need to write a power fx formula and refer to this item as necessary. So basically what the output should look like is in the form of a JSON. Okay, so if you see this bracket, so I've put this bracket, and now it says force colon. Okay, so that's the output variable. So I'm going to say force colon, and then whatever formula you want. Now in our case it is simple, it is mass into acceleration, so we'll just say mass into acceleration, right? Now we can write this, or we can make use of another function. Say if you have addition or multiplication, so we have something called as sum, right? So let's for this example, maybe if we use, say, sum function. So I'm just giving you some examples, so it is not actually multiplication. I'll just say force is sum, mass plus acceleration. Okay, so if that's the case, then I'll just say use of a sum function, and then I will pass on mass comma acceleration. So I'm passing two variable. Okay, now you can use multiply, you can use divide, you can use whatever you want. Just for the demonstration purpose, I'm just changing this formula a bit, and I'll say this is my output. So this is the format you need to remember. So what we created two input variables, mass and acceleration, integer, and an output variable force. Now the syntax is, you need to give a JSON output, and the first item would be the output parameter. So that's the force. Okay, so force is of type integer. And now once that is done, calculate force is what we have created. I'll just click on save. So now we have created a PowerFX function. Basically, this function is to create reusable custom logics, and the functions can be called from apps, flows, and other systems as well. So, okay, so I have created this calculate force. Now, as you see over here, it added a lot of things over here. So it added a FX expression. It added a custom API. So under the backend, it's a custom API which gets executed. Then we have this function of the type function, and then force, mass, and acceleration is a custom AI request. So input is force, output is force, and the input is mass acceleration. That's why you will see acceleration as a request mass as a request, and response is force, right? So it created all this component over here. Now how do we use it? Now in order to use it, let's create a Power Automate flow. Now here I'm going to create an instance flow just to test force logic. So I'll just call it as test force logic, and I'll say it's a wrong logic, because ideally it should be multiplication, but then we are adding it. So test force wrong logic. And how do we call this? Is using a Dataverse connector. So in Dataverse we have something called as an unbound action. So unbound action is not related to any specific table or entity. So if we type in unbound, you say perform an unbound action, and then from here you need to just select the name of the function. Now if you search over here, we wrote something called as force, and it will give you this option called as gcorp underscore calculate force. So it has taken the publisher of the solution, gcorp underscore, and then the name of the function which you have given, calculate force, right? So if you select this, it will ask you for, so let me type in gcorp underscore calculate force, and then it will ask you for a couple of parameters which we're asking for mass and acceleration. So if I could put mass as 100 and acceleration as 50, ideally it should be 500, but we are not multiplying it, we are adding it. So I'll just click on save. Okay, now in order to see the output of this, what we're going to do, we are going to make use of compose action. So there are a couple of output which this an unbound action will return you. So I'll just select data operation and compose, and I'll add one more compose over here. Now in the first compose, I'm gonna select, there are two output from an unbound action. So gcorp, sorry, yep, so dynamic content. So there are a couple of output which this unbound action will return is gcorp calculate force response force and gcorp underscore calculate force response. Okay, so let me select the first one over here, and let me select the second one in the another output for compose. So I'll click on save. So what essentially we have done, we have created a function, and now we are using that function in a Power Automate, using a perform an unbound action from Dataverse, and getting the result in Compose. Now, ideally the result should come as 150. So if we run this, we have to compose, and in the first block you get the output as 150, and in the next block you get a JSON. Also you get the context as well as the output of that variable force, right? So force is an output variable, and we have successfully executed that function. So we have created a reusable function, and now we have called that reusable function in Power Automate, and then we got the result. So I've just given you a simple example where I did some addition, but you can use various functions within a function, and also you can reference a table component. So as you saw over here, like when I showed you, when we created this fx expression, calculate force, so at that time we we have put some logic around it, like, so if you see this logic, force colon some mass acceleration. Now here we can even create a reference a table as well. So let me open that interface. So new automation function, and then from here you can even select the table references. So the table references select up to 5 tables to read or write from in the function's formula. So if I select accounts, if I select let me select airlines, airports, so these are the couple of tables I'm gonna refer. Now here in the output result, I will say city or something, and then here it will ask me for city, and then I can reference the different tables. So accounts, now what do you want in accounts? So in accounts, if you want to refer to that specific thing, or if you want to refer to airlines, or if you want to refer to airports, so all these things can be done. Now, there are other Power Automate functions which you can use, like there is something called as AI classify, AI extract, AI sentiment, summarize, record word. So there are many capabilities of these functions which you can utilize and then make it as a powerful feature, so that you need not calculate it again and again. Now, the only difference between this function and a column with a function is that in the column with a function, it's kind of, it acts as like a calculated column, but here you get more possibility, and this is not tied to a specific table, but this is tied to it's like an independent component, and you can add that in the solution, and then you can utilize it for in either your model driven app, canvas app, or Power Automate. So that's it, folks. This is how you basically utilize functions in Microsoft Power Apps. Thanks for watching.